Hey friends! So I actually wanted to get on here earlier because God gave me a revelation that may or may not be, I guess, just pertinent to me, but it just did something to my brain. I was watching somebody just talk about God, talking about relationship and stuff, and for some reason I was thinking about like all the prayers that I've been praying lately and how like I haven't been journaling like I should. Um cuz I just like writing, I have like carpal tunnel in my hand, and so writing after a certain point starts to hurt pretty bad. And I just have never I'm very traditional. I've never really liked um writing on my laptop very much. I've done it just so I can get through it. But I personally like writing with pen and paper. But anyway, it's not an excuse, and God was kind of getting on to me about it, and this is why. So, just because I've been praying to God and he's been hearing me doesn't necessarily mean that that's like the point that he's trying to make. He said like, "Do you notice how every time you post a YouTube video or every time you write in your journal a prayer, do you not notice how I do something about it like right after that?" And he does. I've went back and read in my journal like that something was happening between me and my partner, this or that, and then like within 3 days that had been settled. Or even just, I remember one time I wrote something in my journal about my partner and I was venting to God about it, and like literally right when I put my journal down, my partner texted me, and I hadn't heard from him in a while. So he called me that night. So I thought it was crazy how I hadn't, like, I think I'd put that together in my brain before, but I thought it as like God trying to peddle me with a carrot. Like, I'm only going to answer your prayers if you pray this way, you know? And that seems really legalistic. Like, I was pushing against that spirit, and I was like, that doesn't seem right because God hears us in all ways, in all fashions, and all whatever. So I don't like that. I don't like whatever spirit is coming at me telling me that he can't hear me when I speak. And God made me realize, Tanya, I did not anoint just your voice. And that kind of sat me in my seat. Because I was like, well, I keep talking to you, keep talking to you. And he goes, but that's not where your anointing is. See, I loved writing growing up. I loved writing. I loved descriptive writing. I even got some of my work published in a college textbook one year, and I never really thought of it as a gift that can take me anywhere. I never really thought about being an author or writing books or writing stories or anything like that. But I was good at it. I was gifted at it. Like, because even naturally, I have this ability to notice things that people don't. I have the ability to take in a scene and take in the whole scene at once instead of just parts of it, because I've noticed that some people's brains that don't work quite as quick as mine, um, they may skip over details in a scene. Like if a scene was given to them for like 15 seconds of audio of, you know, the things around them and everything, and then it was cut off, and then somebody told them to recall back what they saw and heard, you would get so many different descriptions, i.e. the game of telephone, right? How you can tell somebody something and down the line it changes. And it's just basically the same thing where people have a different level of observance or ability to observe. And what that's based on is beyond me. But I just know that my brain, since I was little, has always been very quick. A lot of my trauma was based in being hypervigilant and being able to notice people's emotions before they happen, trying to mitigate loss, mitigate anger, things like that ahead of time. So what makes me a good waitress at work is I can go up to my table, and if there's 4 people at the table, When they tell me what they want to drink and they can tell me what they want to eat, I will notice something about their appearance. I'll notice something about their voice, about what they said. And when I'm putting their order in the computer, that I don't want to stand there at the table and be like, while they're trying to talk to me, I can take that computer, go back to my counter, and I can replay in my head like a video, what the person wanted to drink, what they wanted to eat, down to the little details of like the subs and the add-ons, because I work at a breakfast place. So a lot of people like, can you add mushrooms and onions and peppers to my hash browns, and can you add cheese to my eggs, and I want 1 bacon, 1 sausage, and I can remember all of that for 4 people at a table up to 6. I started trying to push myself. But this is why, is because I have this beautiful ability to observe. And it's not something that I really kind of put together until today, because God said, that's not where I anointed you. And I'm realizing that my writing and my speaking, they go hand in hand, but my writing is what allows my speaking to be impactful, if that makes sense. Like, me being able to sit down and slow down and compress a thought into better words allows me to be very fluent in speaking. Like, I don't just naturally have a speaking voice that brings the best possible words to the front of what I'm saying. If I sat there for a while and thought about my point and what I wanted to say, then I can find better words for it. And so I think it interesting how, God has been trying to point out to me, like, hey, like, your anointing is not only in what you say and what you do, the kind of mother that you are, but in the gifts that I've given you. And it's not just your art, it's not just your painting or your speaking, but it's your writing ability. And I think that's something that he's been trying to strengthen within me. And my soul has been naturally fighting against, not my spirit knows, but my soul, because of the things I've been going through and the resentment that's come with that. And I've been having to deal with all of these emotions because of that. And so it's just been a lot, and I haven't really been able to upload on here. I haven't really been able to do a whole lot other than just kind of get through my day, but that revelation was very impactful to me, though, because he said that's not where your anointing is. And it's because he was trying to inch me along in a certain direction, right? Now, in 3 seasons from now, I may have written the things that I need to write, that he put into me to write, and he may actually emphasize my anointing in my art or in my speaking. Like, I may write these things and they may become impactful. Then he anoints me to speak. He anoints my words. And by anointing, what he was trying to explain to me is in the anointing. And a lot of people, it might go, psh, right? What do you mean anointed? What he's saying is that that's not where your power is. That's not where I put your power in this season, right? Like, you can pray out loud all you want, but if God's power that he put inside of you is in a certain gifting in that season, yes, your prayers are going to be heard over here. It is going to be done and heard, but the power to drive that forward in a way without distractions, without delays, is focusing on where God is putting your anointing in that moment, putting your power. So if he's having you upload videos on YouTube, he might be anointing your voice in that. But when it comes to your personal life and your prayer life, if he's asking you to journal, it might be because he's putting your anointing in your writing. So it's almost as if your pen is a little magic wand, it's a God wand. It's almost as if your pen is holding God's spirit inside of it. And everything that you write and you pray to him, he's like, yes, this is what I want from you. And later on, I'm going to be able to see a bigger picture as to why, because I already see a small picture as to why he wants me to journal this experience, and for obvious reasons of pulling other people up with me and helping them through. But the not so obvious things are like, he's given me a gift of writing. So in this season, me journaling and things like that, may be a healing thing. It may not just be I'm using this as a purpose to help other people, as much as I may be feeding into you at this time to help you so that you can go back to your journal entries and understand how much growth you're making. And I was watching The Deep End with Taylor Welch, and he said that even specifically in one of the last episodes, I believe that he did, he was talking about how he could go back in his pages and sometimes when he would journal, he would just take a picture and make a caption under it about how he was feeling and what was going on, right? And it allowed him within years after that to know where he's at and know that he's growing, because a lot of us, we will get mixed up in the sauce, feel like we put so much effort at something, and when it doesn't necessarily go our way in that moment, we tend to think, oh, why did I even do this? Why do I even do this if every single time I'm going to end up in this place? Like, why, blah, 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 blah. And you may think that, but 2 years later, you might be addressing the same situation, yes, because we walk in spirals in life. God takes us on He likes full circles. God prefers full circles in our life if He can give them to us. And so we might reach the same point in that spiral. Every year we have these patterns, right? So if you notice that you struggle in the winter with your finances, with these things, then in the summer you may want to mitigate that by preparing yourself in the summer and putting things back in your storehouse like squirrels do. You know what I'm saying? If not emotionally, financially, or physically, that's a way that you can be prepared for the winter, for that part of the cycle, right? And that's the whole point of our journaling. If we can journal what happened, how it went wrong, our thought process in the middle of that, we can then reread that from a different standpoint of view, even in the next year or two, and understand first that we are growing, that our efforts aren't worth nothing, and that God is growing us and stewarding us in a certain direction. And if you can start to notice where that spirit is, where His Spirit is, and where it's taking you and how you're healing, you can start to I guess not mitigate that, but kind of get more in God's flow in that way, right? So just because I'm praying and things like that right now doesn't mean that God's not listening to me. But could I move it forward in His flow and come into agreement with Him and His will a little bit more by me journaling about what's going on with me? Yes, because that's what He's asking me. That's where my anointing is. That's where the power is right now. And so it just kind of like blew my mind while I was sitting there, I was rolling silverware at work, and I was like, oh. Because at first, like I said, it's just like I didn't know, like, if the journaling was just for that, just to show me my growth, just to show those things, or if it was just to help other people. But I didn't see it as a thing that where my power was. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought it was a suggestion, because when I was younger, and again, the devil will attack you in the very place that you will be anointed, okay? And this is proof, because when I was younger, I used to keep journals, and when I would get in trouble, my dad or my stepmom, and it's like as simple as getting a B, or I could come home late or something, and it could be as simple as that, or I forgot to switch the laundry, and I would get in trouble, it would turn into a fight, and then they would go in my room, and they would find my journal, and then they would read it, and then they would hold the things in my journal against me. And then when I got older, it was my text messages. They would hold my feelings against me instead of addressing them, right? Addressing them, softening their heart, and being like, maybe I am whatever or whatever, and trying to address that with me in a way that doesn't let on even that they read my journal or invaded my privacy like that. So it's just a matter of like, I never kept a journal. I just learned to not keep a journal because my privacy was going to be invaded anyway. So why keep a journal? And I never dated anybody that I trusted to understand that I write things in a journal. And when people journal, if people journal, they understand that you might write something this week that you don't even mean in your journal, and you're just getting thoughts out, and it may seem irrational and all this stuff, but somebody over here might come read your journal and take that as literal, and get their feelings hurt, you know what I mean? Because you're just venting to God about things that you know that you should take to God. You're not taking to your friends, you're not taking them to your family, and even when we can't bring them to our partners or the person that we're having the issue with, like, we can still sit there with God and talk to him about it, and he can bring us into a right mind. That's the whole reason for us journaling to him and praying to him, is like, hey, like, I'm not in the right place right now, and I'm thinking this and this and this, but I don't think that's right. And I think that's selfish for me as a human to think, but at the same time I don't have a thought pattern to replace that. So I'm coming to you. And that's, so somebody might mistake that in your journal as something negative, but really you're just reaching for guidance. And so that's, for me, I've dealt with a lot of that in my life, and so I just quit keeping a journal. And so me trying to be consistent and keeping a journal now as an adult it has been difficult, to say the least. I was keeping the habit of it and I was really good at it, but then I got around some old friends that weren't necessarily the best of influence for me, and I started having these spirits come back in of like depression and doubt and things, and my days started getting so busy and out of my control that I just stopped journaling as much. I did fill up 2 journals within the time, but I got these other ones, and it's taken me a slower amount of time to fill these ones up because I had been fighting with my want to sit down and give God that time, because I was starting to resent him for certain things, and I was starting to see certain things. And so it was his reminder today to say, hey, I'm not trying to get you to journal just to talk to me or for the obvious reasons, but because that's where I put your anointing right now. That's where I put your power, to teach you the proper places to put those things. And in that, teaching you how to be more powerful for other people. So it's just, it took me a really good while to realize why he was doing that. And so, sit with yourself and ask yourself, like, what have I been fighting in this season that God's been asking me to do, even if it's just little, even if it seems like something like journaling, it seems so simple. It seems like something that everybody does. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? But it could be that simple, and that's where your anointing is, and you don't realize it, and you're not taking advantage of that, and you're not taking advantage of the power that he is putting in you. And so, whether it's your artwork, your YouTube, your journaling, your work relationships with other people, your like whatever you do that you're, in your life that God has put in your life this season, is there something in the realm of personal growth that he's been trying to get you to do, even if it seems simple and stupid, that doesn't seem related to what you're going through right now. Like the journaling didn't seem related to the things that have been going on in my life, and being able to move it forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, all this stuff is happening over here. It doesn't seem like journaling would be a solution for any of that. Praying and talking to God and fasting and reading my Bible seemed like the solution to that. But again, I'm human. Can't be like thinking in my own ways. And so it's crazy how this small little thing has the ability to help me through this big thing, So what have you been sitting there not doing or fighting against, or whatever it is, if you have? Or have you been trying to work, like in one season you were on YouTube, and that's where your anointing was, your word was powerful, but now to get things to move in your life, you need to go into a quiet place with God. You need to branch out to your neighborhood and talk to them, and that's where your anointing is this season. Or he's been pushing you to go to Wednesday night church more, because there might be somebody there that needs prayer, and your prayer for other people might be where you're anointed in that season. And so it could be just something so little, but you got to see where your anointing is. Yes, we have, mantles where, like, I'm an artist and I will always be an artist. I love to sing and I love music and I will always love music, and that's always been a big part of my life. What's another one? Relationships and relational things. I've always been that friend that my couple friends would come to and talk to, because they felt safe and I wouldn't judge either party, but I would be neutral and try to bring them together because I loved love more than I loved their fighting. You know, I loved their love more than I loved either one of them, and I loved the idea of their partnership. And so, same with like other people. I just had a lot of people come put their stuff on me, and the words I've been able to give them have helped them. You know, but even in this season, I noticed that I didn't feel like I had the words to give people to help them, and I was more rather needing that myself. And so I thought it kind of crazy how God was like, yeah, you do need that for yourself. You need to journal. You know, that's where your anointing is. That's where your power is right now. So, you know, if you need to sit back and be like, you know what, God, let me put this in your lap again. And let me ask you, like, where's my anointing in this season? Just because I have gifts over here doesn't mean my gifts are what's anointed this season, you know? Like, he anointed David for a certain job. He anointed him to be king. You know what I'm saying? And so that was his job. That was where his anointing was. But David could have still been this or that, or a good father, or a good whatever, or a good whatever. But it doesn't mean that that's necessarily where his anointing was, where the power was. His power was in being king for God, you know. So that's where a lot of his results came from, and that allowed him to push the other parts of his life. And so that's, you know, I don't know if that rings a bell for you. I don't know if that was significant for you. But he kind of like nudged me to make a video about it, because it was pretty significant for myself, and I immediately wanted to go talk to my Jesus friend about it because she's amazing and I love her and she's such a great godly sister to have. But I realized in that like maybe some of you might benefit from understanding this. Um, you know, so it's like I don't know what to say, you know. Other than like that's just kind of the understanding that God gave me today to give to you guys, and again I hope it's helpful. um but yeah, I don't know, I'm just still sitting here kind of flabbergasted that I would have never in my human understanding put together the fact that, you know, because I'd seen like I would journal and then things would happen, but I wouldn't have connected together in my own brain that that's because that's where my anointing is right now. And that might make me sound dumb, but I also know that there's other people out there with busy lives doing crazy things and trying to, you know, run a business, have children, all this stuff. And we don't always have a lot of time to slow down and understand that, understand these little things. So, you know, I just challenge you to sit there and ask yourself, like, where in my life, like, what in my life, even if it's little, is making a bigger impact over here. So it's like, you know, me journaling is making an impact in the forward movement of my life. Um, you know, is something that you're doing at home somehow able to impact your ability to be a better leader in your business, you know, whether it is folding laundry, teaching you that you're never above the lower tasks of the people around you, or, you know, it's doing the dishes, for your wife, because she's, you know, whatever, and you understand that it makes you whatever it is. I couldn't tell you, I'm not God, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard to put this into words, and that's proof to you that I couldn't just pull this out and be like, yeah, here's a truth that I made up myself. Like, no, because I'm having a hard enough time trying to explain it to you. But yeah, it just, you're gonna know. You're just gonna know. You're gonna know in your own life what that looks like. You know what I'm saying? For some business owners, God might be getting on to you about tracking this one little thing over here that doesn't seem significant, but somehow in 3 years might be exactly what your business needs as far as to save it or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never know. You just never know. And you never know, even if it is for a bigger purpose, what it might be doing on a little scale for your purpose right now. So, I don't know. God just works in layers. He works in different dimensions, and when something seems obvious to us in like a big picture, if you really look at it and start to dissect it, you're like, oh wow, there's a whole lot of good things in here. Because that's the way God intends it. He intends it to be good on multiple levels. You know, you speaking to somebody about him is good on that level because you saved a spirit and you saved somebody, but then that's good on so many other levels. It could be good on a million levels because that person might go be anointed to save a million other people. That's a deeper layer, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, don't discount the small things that God is asking you to do because it might actually have a bigger impact on the bigger picture. So, you know, because that's where your anointing is. So just look at where your anointing is this season. Look at where you're at and make sure that you're being thankful, one, for the anointing, two, recognizing it, and three, trying to take advantage of the things that God is trying to provide you. Not necessarily take advantage of it and like take it for granted, but take advantage of it in a way where you can learn. You know what I'm saying? It's just like somebody who's smarter than you being around you for 2 weeks because of this or that. You know, take advantage of that situation, ask them some questions about themselves, and see if you can learn something from them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, take advantage of the fact that God is sitting there. He's sitting there all the time. And yeah, it might feel like we're far from him. It might feel like we get frustrated with him sometimes. We feel like one day we're just on cloud nine and we couldn't be happier to serve such a beautiful God. But then in the next day, it is the most grueling process and you're asking God why. You know, I understand that, but it doesn't discard from the fact that we shouldn't also take advantage of the fact that he also holds all of the key to the understanding of our frustration. He holds the key to the understanding of our life and who we are as people. And as long as we continue to dig in that, we will always be on par with him. But if we don't dig into that and continue to try to dwell in that, you know, we tend to stray from ourselves. We stray from our anointing. We become stuck and we aren't in flow with God anymore. We might be moving forward or not as fast as we could be because we're pushing against that. You know what I'm saying? So do yourself a favor and, you know, pray about it. Be like, God, is there somewhere that you're asking me to improve myself that, you know, has a bigger thing for me in store or has a bigger, um, you know, has a better anointing on it or whatever you need to do. Just I urge you to talk to him. Take advantage of that and talk to him. Even when you're frustrated at him, talk to him in the frustration. Talk to him in your sadness. Talk to him in your happiness. Talk to him in your gratitude. Talk to him in everything, because in everything you'll be able to know where your anointing is. You'll be able to know how these things work as you're going, you know, but it's about the journey. It's not about the monuments that we face, and we really have to learn to start embracing the journey and what God's trying to teach us along the way. And I realized personally that I was kind of butting up against that because I was tired, because I was overwhelmed, because of this, because of that, not thinking that it would actually help me, you know, making video journals thinking that that could suffice. But there is something to be said about, you know, you writing something down and reading your own handwriting. It's interesting, but it's true. So, you know, anyway, I hope you guys are doing great today. I hope that you are feeling the love of Christ today. I pray that you guys, you know, receive what you need to from this message. If you feel like it might help somebody else, send it to them. But, you know, I bring this here in love, and I bring this here out of obedience because God asked me to. And I haven't been uploading on this channel. I am still in the process of editing my last video. But yeah, I mean, and I've told you guys it's about the journey. It's about how this life is a journey, and it's just I want to put it into the best words I can. And make sure that I get that one out there in the right way, because it is a foundational thing. It's not like a what is sin or what is, you know, what's the best way to comb your hair or the best conditioner to use for this or that. No, like this video will be a foundational, like if you watch this video you will understand some of the fundamental foundations of God and why he directs us the way he directs us, and how we can make our lives easier by trying to embrace that. You know, knowing that God will give us rest when he needs to give us rest. He will give us, anointing and inspiration when we need it. And every other thought that comes outside of that is not from him. He wrapped it all up nice in a little parable journey experience I had. It was an encounter that lasted a whole day. It wasn't like just an encounter where I had like a vision and I was like, oh, I get it. No, like this was a whole day. It was a 13-mile hike. It was a whole day. It was a whole situation. And it had such a deep, beautiful meaning to it. And I just want to make sure that you guys get that in the way that he meant for you to have it, so that anybody at any walk of life can understand what it means to walk with God, what it means to have a relationship with him, and what the meaning of this life is, and why it's a journey, it's not a destination. I know that none of us asked to be here, but at the end of the day, the best thing we can do is show up and embrace it. Whatever that looks like for you, if God anointed you and put you in a certain place in life, to walk a certain path, you're gonna, if you walk the journey with him, your life, it won't be without struggle, but it will come with learning. It will come with fulfillment. It will come with the feeling like you are purpose driven. It will come with that feeling like the emptiness inside of you is not even a thought, because you're so enthralled with what's in front of you. You're so enthralled with the beautiful purpose and mission that God has for your life. But if we can't sit there and embrace it and life itself, and understanding that it is a journey, then we rob ourselves of really life itself. We rob ourselves of ever fulfilling ourselves. We rob ourselves of ever really making progress forward when it comes to the matters of your soul, and the matters of your spirit, and the matters of education, and the matters of your memories, and all of those things. Like, if you can't embrace the thing that you were made for and brought here for, you will struggle, and if you just get through your days just to get to that next thing, you will always be unfulfilled, because life is a journey and it's made to be that way. And yes, we get destinations along the way that keep our hope going for the journey, that keep our faith strong for the journey, but it's still a journey. And how to make our journey less grueling, and just, yeah, like I said, just how to embrace it. So that's why I haven't really posted a long form video in a while. And even the last one that I did was just kind of a short lesson about making yourself uncomfortable, to be comfortable in God, that sometimes that life is hard, and being crap is hard, and achieving something's hard, so just choose your hard. So that was my last video, but I've just been holding off on this other one because